All right, welcome to the show, y'all. There is a lot going on. If you didn't see my breaking news video last night, which was posted to YouTube, Zoran Mamdani, the immigrant, Muslim, democratic socialist running for mayor of New York City, won the primary, dethroned Andrew Cuomo and the Cuomo dynasty. And look, man, it's just a great thing. I mean, it really feels like a new day in America, a new political era. The libs are completely and utterly radicalized. AIPAC and Trump billionaires dumped millions and millions of dollars into that race to try to get Cuomo elected. And the Democratic base not only said no, they said hell no, because it was an astounding victory in the first round, which basically nobody saw coming. Literally only one of 32 polls said that might happen. So just huge. As a leftist, you get used to the feeling of losing because the entire system is biased against you and money in politics is biased against you. But we notched a pretty big victory on our belt last night. So super, super excited about that. But we got a lot to get to today. So in just a second, there was a report coming out from U.S. intelligence, of all places, saying, yeah, Trump strike didn't do Dickie McGee's axe. It did nothing. So we'll talk about that. We also have Bernie Sanders went on Joe Rogan's show, and at one point, they got into a heated debate about Trump and his war on free speech. We'll talk about that. We also have some secret leaks coming out. Mossad is now on the record as threatening to kill women and children in Iran. What's so amazing about that story is that you had some Israel backers posting it as if to brag about it, as if to brag about Mossad basically openly coming out as terrorists. Then later on, Dave Smith is already backpedaling from his Trump criticism. We have a poll that shows Americans are revolting over war with Iran, with one major caveat, y'all. Would you like to guess what that caveat is? Everybody but MAGA seems to be hating war with Iran. And then we'll also talk about Democrats flat out betraying us and saving Trump from impeachment. Wait until I get to the numbers on Al Green's attempt to impeach Trump over his illegal bombing of Iran. This is going to make you furious. And then we'll also talk about AOC cooking Trump for betraying the country. And Stephen A. Smith does not know what the fuck he's talking about. And I'm going to have to lash out at him a little bit. So you guys know the drill. Everybody, please do me a big favor. Subscribe below. That helps out massively and costs you nothing at all. You can also support the show on Patreon. The people who do that make this show work. I can't thank you enough. $2 a month, $5 a month, whatever it is. That goes a very long way. Because remember, we are real independent media. Not this bullshit fake independent media / new corporate media. I've never talked to an advertiser. I've never done an ad read. I've never talked to a billionaire. I've never talked to a government. This is grassroots funded media. We get support from you guys, and we have the default ads on YouTube, and that's it. And I'm very, very proud of the model that we built. Everybody could also subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends below on Substack. That also goes a long way if you subscribe there. You get the video of every interview and you get it a day early. And go subscribe to the Corin's World YouTube channel, where we still haven't missed a week. Since we moved it over to his channel. We're trying to get him to 100,000 subscribers. By the way, this week's episode, which I probably dropped today, it probably already dropped by the time you're watching this. Man, this one was a pain in the ass because his internet kept cutting out and, you know, the program we use wasn't exactly working. And so there were like long 30 or 40 minute breaks where I'm sitting there scrolling through my phone. But at the end of the day, we ended up getting probably a solid hour or even more. So definitely go subscribe and you can watch me and Corin shoot the shit. All right, guys. Let's get into it. We got a lot of stuff to get to today. So, as you all know, Israel decided to launch an illegal attack on Iran, kill top military officials, political officials. They also killed civilians. Iran retaliated to that. The U.S. got involved, and Trump decided we're going to bomb Iranian nuclear sites. Now, what happened was the early reporting was that Trump was basically broadcasting that he was going to bomb Iran all the way back in March. And as soon as Iran felt like, okay, no, they're actually going to do this, they took action and moved their enriched uranium out of their nuclear sites so that if the U.S. attacks, that they still have the ability to enrich uranium and, you know, could probably break away and get a nuke quickly if they feel like they need it, right? That was the early tentative reporting. Well, now we have validation and verification from U.S. intelligence, of all places. There's a bunch of sources that have come out and said, bro, so they didn't get anything. Like, the bombings accomplished nothing. In fact, what's more likely to happen now is that since Israel and the U.S. launched an illegal attack against Iran. Now Iran is going to go, well, shit, I guess we should start building a nuke now because that's the only way to guarantee we don't get fucked with further, right? It's the North Korea model. Kim Jong-un has nukes. Nobody can fuck with him. The U.S. wants to, but we can't because we know he'll launch on Seoul, South Korea if we do, so we just have to deal with him, right? Whereas Libya is the opposite. Gaddafi gave up his weapons of mass destruction, and then what happened? He ended up getting overthrown and sodomized with a bayonet, right? So the message is clear. If you play ball with us, we will screw you over. If you don't play ball with us, you'll survive. So, gee, I wonder what they're working on now after the illegal and offensive attack from both Israel and the U.S. Okay, so here's the report from CNN. Let's listen, and then we'll break it down further.
We have major breaking news into CNN. 3 sources tell CNN that according to an early U.S. intelligence assessment, the U.S. military strikes on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities last weekend did not destroy the core components of the country's nuclear program and likely only set it back a few months.
That's right. So this is an assessment that actually is out from the Defense Intelligence Agency. That is the Pentagon's intelligence arm. And it was based on a battle damage assessment conducted by U.S. CENTCOM after the strikes, according to one of the sources. Let's go to CNN national security correspondent Natasha Bertrand, who has this exclusive new reporting. This is to that question that has been asked about how much damage has been done. This is a real question. It's also a political question that has been to something that Donald Trump has been sort of dealing with here recently. What are you learning, Natasha?
Yeah, look, Brianna, this is the first assessment that we are getting that the U.S. intelligence community has found about the battle damage that resulted from those U.S. military strikes on these 3 Iranian nuclear facilities over the weekend. And as you said, it was produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the Pentagon's intelligence arm. And it is worth noting that it is a very early assessment. The strikes were only a matter of days ago, and the intelligence community is still gathering intelligence. They are still working to come up with a full, comprehensive picture of what exactly happened here. But based on...
I love how the before and after picture, it basically looks the same. It basically looks the same. Like there's a little bit of like ash or smoke or whatever. Like the mountains are sort of grayed out a little bit. But now look, I get it. It's bunker busters. It goes underground. But the idea that you can look at this and be like, yep, mission accomplished. That's preposterous. Now just wait until you hear what Trump is saying, because it's hilarious.
A battle damage assessment that was carried out by U.S. Central Command, essentially looking at the images and looking at what was actually damaged. The Defense Intelligence Agency has assessed that the core components of Iran's nuclear program are largely intact, and that Iran's nuclear program has essentially only been set back by months. Now, we presented this information to the White House for comment, and White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, she did acknowledge the existence of this assessment, but she said in a statement that the administration disagrees with it. She said, quote, "This alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked to CNN by an anonymous low-level loser in the intelligence community. The leaking of this alleged assessment is a clear attempt to demean President Trump and discredit the brave fighter pilots who conducted a perfectly executed mission to obliterate Iran's nuclear program."
Oh my God. How dare you go after our brave fighter pilots by reporting facts. I hate how everybody around Trump just turns into Trump, right? With shitty arguments, ad hominem attacks.
Everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their targets, total obliteration. Now, it is worth noting here that there has been dissent, I should say, within the intelligence community, within the defense community, about just how much of an impact these massive bunker buster bombs would actually have on Iran's nuclear facilities. It was far from certain, given that these bombs had never been tested.
That's why, by the way, there was a report that they considered a tactical nuke. They considered a tactical nuke because the speculation was, bro, if we use 2,000-pound bunker busters, 5,000-pound bunker busters, 30,000-pound, the Moab, it ain't enough. It ain't enough. They built this shit at the base of a mountain way underground. Like, it just might not be enough to get the job done.
An actual combat scenario, whether they would actually penetrate those very, very deep underground tunnels that lie underneath these nuclear facilities. And what we are told is that as of now, this Defense Intelligence Agency assessment, it does conclude at this point, again, it is still very early, that those underground facilities, including the centrifuges, including the highly enriched uranium that everyone has been talking so much about, those are largely intact. Now, of course, this does stand at odds with what President Donald Trump and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth have been saying in recent days about the impact of these U.S. military strikes. Of course, President Trump said it was totally obliterated, and Secretary Hegseth did as well. And he actually also provided CNN with a statement And he said that, quote, based on everything we have seen, and I've seen it all, our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. Our massive bombs hit exactly the right spot at each target and worked perfectly. The impact of those bombs is buried under a mountain of rubble in Iran. So anyone who says the bombs were not devastating is just trying to undermine the president and the successful mission. Now, our sources did emphasize here that there was severe damage that was done largely to the above ground structures at these nuclear sites. And so there was damage done, of course, by these massive bombs. But the core components of the nuclear program, we are told, they are largely intact, and it only set the program back by a matter of months.
Wow. Okay. So now Trump, this is brought up to Trump, and he absolutely melts down at the NATO summit. Here we go.
We hear it was obliteration. It was a virtual obliteration. When you take a look at the ground above, don't forget, the flame is all underground. But everything above, if you look at the before and the after picture, everything above is burned black. The trees, everything.
There are no trees. He's just such a pathological, like, he just says shit. He just says shit. He just says whatever suits his purposes. If you look at the trees that don't exist, man, they're really messed up. They're really charred, aren't they?
There's one building, but that's a building that sunk substantially into the granite, so that, you know, the fire goes right over it. I believe it was total obliteration. I believe they didn't have a chance to get anything out because we acted fast. If it would have taken...
He was broadcasting in March that he was going to bomb them, by the way. And apparently the Iranians really knew that all of the talk of, oh, yes, let's do another round of negotiations. The Iranians were smart enough to know they don't mean this shit. They're just dragging us along. And so they acted.
2 weeks maybe, but it's very hard to remove that kind of material. Very hard and very dangerous for them to remove it. Plus, they knew we were coming. And if they know we're coming, they're not going to be down there. It was very severe. It was obliteration. And you'd think that a media outlet would say, isn't that a great thing? I mean, this was an unbelievable hit by genius pilots and genius people in the military, and they're not being given credit for it because we have scum that's in this group.
Oh, I hate how dishonest it is. This is what they used to do in the Iraq War. If you disagreed with the Iraq War, they'd be like, why do you hate the troops? You hate our soldiers. You hate America. You're unpatriotic. Now they're doing the same shit. Oh, you're reporting a fact about how our strike didn't take out their uranium and their nuclear program? Well, why do you hate our fighter pilots? You're demeaning them.
Not all of you are. You have some great reporters, but you have scum. CNN is scum.
All he has is ad hominem when he's in a corner. You're an asshole, scum, asshole, prick.
MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum. They're bad people. They're
Oh my, by the way, let's be clear. All of them except MSNBC, all the places he just mentioned except MSNBC, basically supported this. Adam Johnson has reported on this from Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, and he says there's, in the past, decade or two, there has not been a single war, might even be 3 decades, a single war that the New York Times hasn't supported to one extent or another. So, this is just such cope. This is such cope from Trump.
What they've done is they're trying to make this unbelievable victory into something less. Now, even they admit that it was hit very hard, okay? But it wasn't hit hard. It was hit brutally. If you were in the Situation Room with me, with the generals and all of the people that did such a good job, and then they get demeaned by these idiots at CNN who can't get ratings, the place is dying, nobody wants to even waste their time going on their shows. So they form with the New York Times, who's dying also. Without Trump, you wouldn't have a New York Times.
Wow. So now, by the way, curveball thrown at you. Ready? I would rather have him acting indignant like this and lying like this than going, oh, totally, you're right, we actually didn't get it. We're going to go back in tomorrow. If Donald Trump needs me to pretend like he's a genius and he destroyed Iran's uranium in order to prevent a further war, sir, you've done the best job of any president ever. I've never seen anybody as successful as you. You took out their enriched uranium and you did it immediately with strength and honor, sir. How are you so incredible? Please, sir, definitely don't bomb Iran anymore because the mission's accomplished, sir. Please. If that's what he needs me to do, I'm all in on that shit. As long as there's no further bombing, as long as there's no further Israeli aggression or U.S. aggression, for fuck's sake, I'll say whatever you want. I will say whatever you want. So in a weird, twisted way, him being indignant and him lying is actually a good sign. So, but we'll have a story later on about how it's kind of naive, though, to be hopeful at this moment, because as I pointed out, the Israeli mission is called Operation Rising Lion, which it basically is alluding to the flag of the Persian Empire, which had a lion on it, right? And so the Israelis are clear. They want to get rid of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, right? They want to get rid of the Ayatollah and the mullahs, and they want to put in the son of the Shah and have a secular dictator who's a puppet to the West. That's their goal. That's what they want. And there was reporting from Ken Klippenstein and Seymour Hersh that that plan was greenlit behind the scenes, including by Trump, that, yeah, we're going to go for regime change here. But it's possible that Trump just wants to declare victory now, clean his hands of it, and move on. That is possible. But, you know, he's going to run into a brick wall of Israel, who is going to insist on continuing to attack. And in fact, like I said, I have a segment later where you have Israeli generals who are already saying, like, bitch, this is not over. We are nowhere near done. And then you have the added element of the fact that Miriam Adelson gave Trump $100 million to do her bidding when it comes to Israel, and she's a colossal warmonger, and she wants regime change in Iran, and he's taken over $200 million from the Israel lobby in total, and so they're going to exert enormous amounts of pressure on him. So, like I said, this could all be part of the kayfabe, right? This could all be part of the game, and Israel just needs to, like, reload, and then they're going to go right back to the war, and Trump's going to support it. It could all be fake diplomacy again, for sure, but we would be lucky in a scenario where Trump just wants to declare victory and move on. But again, then you're going to have the immense pressure of the Israel lobby behind the scenes, effectively trying to force him to at least allow them to continue, right? So anyway, let me give you some more, because this is cope and seethe to the max, because I showed you a report from CNN saying the same thing. New York Times, strike set back Iran's nuclear program only by a few months, U.S. report says. Classified findings indicate that the attack sealed off the entrance to two facilities, but did not collapse their underground buildings. So in other words, it wasn't just one outlet that got this information. This information was leaked from U.S. intelligence to multiple outlets. More, Daily Beast. Iran has declared that its nuclear program will resume without interruption, despite Trump's insistence that the program had been obliterated by the U.S. So you have the Iranians also saying, bitch, we got everything we need. We're chilling over here. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And then you have this. U.S. officials tell CNN they believe Iran maintains secret nuclear facilities that were not targeted in latest strikes and remain operational. So that's an even worse scenario for Trump, because according to this reporting, like, you didn't even know about all of the nuclear facilities, and those bitches are moving right along swimmingly. So good luck, homie. Good luck. But as I said, hey, you need me to come out here and be like, sir, you got everything. Definitely wash your hands of this and move on and let Iran be. It was a complete and total success, sir. Not a complete and total failure, and an obvious one. But by the way, like I said, now if you're Iran, you would be fucking stupid to not immediately get a nuke. You'd be stupid, right? Now, how long will it take in total? I don't know. The breakaway time, maybe it's a few months, maybe it's a year, whatever it is. But man, they'd be crazy if they weren't working on it right this second. Because the second they get that shit, then they're actually protected from a further regime change operation, right? So that's absolutely what they should do. But it's kind of ironic that the stated goal of the U.S., even though this wasn't the real goal, the stated goal of the U.S. is they can't have a nuke, right? And Trump is bringing about a situation where they are way more likely to get a nuke. As I said, the real goal in their heart of hearts, they actually want regime change, right? Whether or not they'll follow through on that is a separate question. But definitely at the end of the day, this makes it way more likely Iran is going to get a nuke. And then here, I just want to give a little advice to Iran on this front. If you get the nuke, here's what you need to do. You need to call the U.S., in fact, directly call Trump and tell him, hey, dog, we got the nuke. And then directly call Israel and Netanyahu and tell them, hey, dog, we got the nuke. But also say, look, we won't go public with it if you don't go public with it. So, like, you don't need to humiliate yourselves and tell the press, and then the press blasts it out that your mission last time failed. It'll be our little secret. But now you know you can't attack us. So in other words, let them save face. Let Trump save face. Because if you don't, he is more likely to attack you if the word comes out that you got a nuke. Because he's insane, and it would bruise his ego so much that he'd be like, well, launch on them anyway, right? So you got to be like, hey, man, just letting you know we got the nuke, but we'll get your back if you get ours. You don't attack us, and we won't tell anybody else that we got the nuke. That's my advice. So if Iran, if you're listening, there you have it. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.